Well, the list of what Donald Trump didn't do today is, as usual, much, much longer than the list of what he did do today. Donald Trump did not do anything to win or end his war with Iran. Donald Trump didn't say anything encouraging to the families of the American military personnel serving in Donald Trump's war, not the slightest hint that those troops would be home for Christmas. The families still have no idea about that. Donald Trump did nothing to lower a single price of anything in the United States today. After promising his voters that prices would come down, he would bring them down as soon as he took the oath of office. And Donald Trump spent another day failing to end Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine after promising his believing voters that he would end Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine on the first day of his presidency. Donald Trump did not do one thing today that he promised his voters that he would do when he was running for president. And instead, Donald Trump decided to insult the intelligence of every voter who voted for him. And for the small minority of voters who are left clinging to the wreckage of the Trump presidency and still supporting Donald Trump went out of his way to insult them today. Because he apparently believes that the remaining Trump voters still supporting him are at least as stupid as he is. And so he believes that they are now impressed and thrilled that on the day that he did absolutely nothing useful as president of the United States, and on the day when he continued to try to destroy voting as we know it in America and destroy any semblance of stability in the Middle East and continue to push up inflation with his war and his tariffs, Donald Trump was absolutely sure that he could thrill the hearts and minds of his remaining fanatical followers by changing the name of a lake.
The purpose of this, more than anything else, is we're going to be changing the name of Lake Ontario, effective immediately, to Lake America.
That's what he did today. Remember when he promised to do that during the presidential campaign? No, of course we don't, because he didn't promise to do that. He was busy lying about how he was going to bring prices down if he got to be president. He was busy lying about pretending to care about an affordability crisis that has only gotten worse because he is president. And he now says that that affordability crisis, which he campaigned on without using those words because he doesn't understand them, that is a fraud, that no one is struggling with prices in America. No one. The issue he ran on, he's now saying is a fraud. And what matters to him now is renaming a body of water that was named 400 years ago before there was a United States of America. Imagine serving in Donald Trump's war in Iran today, and you see that that is what the commander-in-chief is doing today. That's what he did. That's all he did. That's what the commander-in-chief cares about today. Donald Trump's already said he's in no hurry to end his war in Iran. He's already said he has no timetable at all for his war in Iran. And then he proved it to everyone serving in that war today and their families by spending his time on the name of a lake. And everyone serving in his war knows that the name of that lake is not going to change, no matter what Donald Trump said today. No one in the world is going to go along with that change of name. The only power Donald Trump has is to change how that lake is referred to in federal documents. He cannot force anyone to call it anything other than Lake Ontario out loud. Donald Trump did this today because he is losing in his trade war with Canada. Donald Trump participated in the negotiating and writing a legal trade agreement with Canada in his first term as president. It was an update of the North American Free Trade Agreement. Donald Trump signed that new North American Free Trade Agreement, and then when he came back to the presidency, Donald Trump immediately violated the trade agreement that he had signed. And that is in the grand old American tradition of violating every agreement this government signed with the native tribes who were here on this land before us. The Department of the Interior was created in 1849 and had a terrible start, spending the rest of the 19th century in cruel and abusive violations of treaties with tribes all over the country. And so it is impossible for Donald Trump's Secretary of the Interior to be the cruelest Secretary of the Interior in history. That's taken by our 19th century secretaries. But he is, by far, the most clownish Secretary of the Interior. Doug Burgum, Donald Trump's buffoonish Secretary of the Interior, stood beside him today at the signing of the executive order about renaming a lake and cheered Donald Trump every step of the way. The executive order is to him. It's to Doug Burgum. It's to the Secretary of the Interior to carry out this name change in federal paperwork. The Trump executive order says, quote, "It is the policy of my administration to recognize the extraordinary contributions of the American people and the rich heritage of our history by naming great natural landmarks for our shared achievements." Okay, then let's start with the Dakotas. Doug Burgum was the governor of North Dakota. Dakota was not some American hero. Dakota, like Ontario, is a tribal word, meaning friend, friendly. That word does not honor the people Donald Trump wants to honor. That word honors the people who were here before us. So does the word Minnesota. So does the word Massachusetts, Michigan, Connecticut, and so many other important place names in this country that came from the language and the people who were here before Christopher Columbus ever sailed west. You can reach the Atlantic Ocean from Lake Ontario by passing through the St. Lawrence Seaway. Donald Trump's executive order about Lake Ontario today actually mentions the St. Lawrence Seaway, but says nothing about changing that name. Why not? It is a hydronym for a body of water on the border of New York and Canada, just like Lake Ontario. And it was named the St. Lawrence River in 1604 by a French explorer. So when is Donald Trump going to change that name to an American name? St. Lawrence was not an American. That name doesn't honor anyone in this country. What is important in this story is its proof beyond a reasonable doubt of the tiny-minded stupidity that guides Donald Trump through every day, every minute in the White House, and everything that he does in the White House, including waging war. He wages war as stupidly as he renames things on maps. He wages war as he fails to rename the St. Lawrence Seaway on the same principle that he used to rename Lake Ontario today. Why should that principle of honoring Americans only hold for Lake Ontario and nothing else? The reason is that it's not a principle. It's just gibberish made up by Donald Trump and the liars who work for him in the White House and the lying cabinet secretaries who stand beside him in the Oval Office, supporting every single bit of madness that he publicly exhibits. The Secretary of Defense supports a madman waging war in Iran. The Secretary of Health and Human Services revels in the fact that he gets to work for a madman in the White House who supports his utter, lethal insanity that he spews about public health. An Attorney General who defended Donald Trump in court when Donald Trump was convicted of crimes, stands eager tonight to help Donald Trump commit more crimes against the Constitution and crimes against election laws in this country that forbid the president from having any role in our elections. Donald Trump has an attorney general who is as eager to help him violate election law in support of his illegal demand for state voter rolls as his clownish Secretary of the Interior is in standing beside him today in that shameful, ugly moment in the Oval Office. Donald Trump won 0 votes today with his attack on Lake Ontario. There wasn't one Trump voter out there who was drifting away from supporting Donald Trump because of his war in Iran or because of his increase in inflation through tariffs, which are really sales taxes on all of us, including every Trump voter. wasn't one of those Trump voters who turned around today and said, oh, I'm coming back. I'm coming back to Donald Trump because he got tough with Canada, the best neighboring country in the world. He got tough with Canada by writing new words on a map that no one will use. This is the kind of madness that will live after Donald Trump's presidency, but it will not live in the presidency. We will never see madness like this in the presidency again if we're lucky. And Donald Trump alone now believes that his remaining supporters are so stupid that they will cheer him on the way the clearly stupidest Secretary of the Interior in history cheered him on today. There is much to fear in Donald Trump tonight. Renaming lakes is not one of those things. A madman in the presidency of the United States gives the world more to fear than anyone else could give us to fear. And what he did with the map of North America today can and will be ignored and legally undone. It'll be ignored from now on, and it'll be legally undone 2 years from now. But what he gave future historians today is further proof of how utterly lost he is in everything else that he touches. The English didn't know that George III was insane during his reign, but a couple of centuries later, it was a unanimously recognized historical fact, to the point where when Alan Bennett's brilliant play opened in 1991, titled The Madness of King George III, audiences could laugh, and audiences could give standing ovations. Our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will be laughing at plays and movies about the madness of Donald Trump. Today's moment will be a scene in those plays and movies, renaming maps, renaming a Great Lake. That'll be in there. They will be able to laugh about the madness of Donald Trump, but we will have to endure it. We will have to survive it. And voters are now empowered to control the madness of Donald Trump by electing Democrats to Congress this year if our right to vote, very much including our right to vote by mail, survives the madness of Donald Trump.